Hello and welcome back to the second video on relationships and health education in primary school. In the last video, I introduced you to relationships and health education. This second video will go into a bit more detail about why relationships and health education is such an important and relevant subject. So the Department for Education considers relationships and health education as an important and necessary part of all pupils' education. And it says that all schools now have to teach it. Remember, the last time the guidance for teaching this subject was written was in 2000. Lots has changed over the last 20 years, and so the government has looked at the research, and there's really strong evidence that the topics covered are making a difference to children and young people's lives. It's been found that this subject area can help children stay safe online and offline. It encourages them to be responsible for their own health, like staying fit and making healthy food choices. It helps them recognise and overcome barriers to their own learning because it improves their social skills, and it improves confidence and communication skills, which employees value highly. And there's strong evidence that it's helping young people prepare for the world of work, and it's helping them get into the careers that they want. Children will cover a really wide range of topics in their relationship and health education lessons. However, it's really important to remember that they will gradually build their learning over time, and the words and the resources that the teachers and the support staff use in these lessons are really carefully considered, and only those suitable to the age and stage of their development will be selected. So, for example, learning the skills of fairness and turn-taking with toys in reception will gradually build to developing the skills of negotiation and assertiveness in years 4, 5 and 6. Learning to work together and respect one another in primary school is thought to enable young people to understand and manage a wider range of different types of relationships and understand the concept of consent when they move up into high school. And an understanding of the roles of the different people in our community and how they help us introduces children and young people to further education and different career choices throughout their time in school and education. I invite you to take a moment now to cast your mind back. What experiences and memories do you have of growing up? It might have been here in London or somewhere else in the UK, or further afield in a different country or continent maybe. How did you learn about growing up? Was it from your parents? Did you get lessons about it at school? Where was your main source of information from? Was it your friends, or did you read about things in magazines and books? Whichever way you found out about growing up, just consider whether your experience was a positive one or not. Did you learn everything that you needed to know about? Were you able to ask questions, and did you know who to turn to? And were you always aware and prepared for the things that were happening to you? When we ask this question when we're in face-to-face meetings with parents, many of them say that actually they found that they were worried. When they looked back, they were actually quite worried as they were growing up and they were going through their body changes. They asked themselves, am I normal? Is this normal to go through these feelings, or to look like this, or to have something happen to them in that way? And they often said that they were frightened. Many of them reported that they had feelings of fear because they just didn't know what was happening. And children nowadays, well, it's interesting because they're telling us the same. They are worried too about what's happening and whether or not what they're going through is normal. And some of them actually do share that they are feeling frightened. So whilst we know that the world looks different from the way it did 20 years ago, the feelings that it creates in those going through puberty and adolescence are not majorly different to the ones that you and I will have experienced. So relationship and health education really helps them steer their way through these changes that often cause confusion and uncertainty. And it won't surprise you, I'm sure, because children and young people are shown in magazines, on the TV and online. They hear it in lyrics sung by pop groups and rap artists about the way that they should look, the way that they should be. And sometimes this is really different to how they feel about themselves, and it can cause them a great deal of anxiety and worry. And it's why relationship and health education lessons are so important, because they allow children and young people to really think about the way they feel and what these images mean to them. And it's in a safe space where they can discuss and debate and create their own views about their relationships, both with themselves and others. Plus, by having lessons that help them explore their own and other people's views, they're beginning to be encouraged to think and consider and be curious about these topics that many may otherwise remain a mystery. So whilst they're being bombarded with messages through the television they watch, their phones that they're on, and the games that they play, and the shops that they visit, this curriculum will help balance those messages. And the lessons on positive relationships, believing in themselves, honesty, kindness, generosity, and trustworthiness will help them in their journey throughout life. And I've no doubt that your child will turn to you when they're considering all these views and when they have questions, opinions, and ideas, so that you might want to think about how you're going to prepare for when they come home and ask you questions and are curious about the things that happened to you when you were growing up. At home, you can consider things like how to have a discussion, what questions to ask them about what they've been learning about. You can find out what's been covered in school, like you are now, and the other videos that you've watched. You might want to look at books and online resources. Most of all, it's really a good idea to help them feel able to open up and talk with you, to really normalise growing up in puberty, and to recognise that it's just another phase that they're going through, and that they will come out the other end, and they will be experiencing it with their friends around them as well as their families. And finally, this all leads back to wanting all our children and young people to have the language to speak out if they're worried, to know what safety feels like and what to do if they don't feel safe, to decide what's appropriate and inappropriate for them, and to have happy and healthy relationships. Please keep a note of any questions you have, because they may well get answered in the final video. But if not, we will provide you with an email address at the end of the final video for you to send your unanswered questions to. Remember, next time when we meet, it will be the final time, video 3, and I'll be talking about what your child will be taught in relationships and health education. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all again in the last video